I'm going to record day 29 of Wes Boss's JavaScript 30, and it is to create this really cool countdown clock. So click on any of the options up here. A countdown is going to appear on the screen as well as the time to return. You can change and the clock will start over again. And if you don't like any of the custom presets, go ahead and just add your own time, hit enter, and voila. Let's begin. First, I'm going to grab the DOM elements I need, including the elements that will display the time and the time to come back at, and then the buttons with those preset options. Let countdown is something I'll cover in greater detail here in timer. Then I'm going to add the event listeners that I need, and then to the buttons, I'm going to add a click event, which will invoke start timer. And then to the form, I'm going to add a submit event, which will invoke handle submit. And I want to cover those two functions first, because when I get to timer, I want to tell you where these seconds are coming from. So set timer, get the seconds from the data time attribute in the button tag. So const seconds is equal to this dot dataset dot time. And that is actually going to be a string, so I want to wrap that in a parse int. And I'm using a custom attribute that I've named time, and I'm accessing that value by saying dataset.time. And now I will invoke timer and pass to it the seconds. For handle submit, I want to first prevent default browser behavior by saying e.preventDefaults. That will stop the page from reloading. Then I want to get the value from the input tag. So I'll say const minutes, because right now that's only formatted to take minutes, and we'll say this dot minutes dot value, and that input tag has a name of minutes, and that's how I'm accessing it with its name. Then I'm going to set the timer, and timer is going to take seconds, so I'm going to pass it minutes but multiply it by 60. Lastly, I want to reset the form, so I'll say this dot reset. Wonderful. So now we know where timer is getting these seconds from. Let's take a closer look at what timer is doing. Well, the first thing I want to do is reset the counter. So I'm going to say clear interval and then pass it countdown. Now that's that variable I said I would cover in more detail. What's going on here? So countdown saved to it is this set interval function. And the way that you can clear the value of a set interval function is by saving it to a variable, in this case countdown, and then running the clear interval function. This way, if you hit multiple buttons, it's not going to run multiple countdowns concurrently. Instead, it's just going to run the last countdown that you clicked on. With that out of the way, let's get the current time. So I'm going to say const now, and that is equal to a new date. Oh, not new, just date.now. And now I want to figure out when this countdown is going to stop. So I'll say const then, and that is going to be equal to now plus the seconds. But I need to convert seconds to milliseconds, because right now that is the format that now is printed in. So I'm going to multiply by 1,000. Next, I'll invoke both of the display functions. So I'll say display time left. And to that function, I'm going to pass the seconds. Then I'm going to invoke display end time. And that I'm going to pass then. So I have those two functions invoked. Let's take a closer look at what this set interval function is going to do. Well, it's going to calculate the number of seconds that we have left by taking whatever value we're looking forward to and subtracting the current time, and that's going to be re-evaluated every second. And we're going to then divide by 1,000, because this value is going to be represented in milliseconds. This if statement is going to cover when we hit 0, because the counter would just go -1, -2, etc. But that's not what clocks do. So once the clock hits 0, go ahead and clear the countdown, return the function, and then in 1 second, we're going to run this set interval function one more time. And the last thing set interval is going to do is take the number of seconds left and pass it to display time left. So what does display time left do? Well, it takes those seconds provided to it. From those seconds, we're going to calculate the minutes, and then the number of seconds that are left over after we've calculated the minutes. And then I've saved to a variable called display this very long string. And then I'm going to pass to the title of the document in the tab, and the DOM element that's going to display the time that's remaining, this display variable. And so display is just taking the values from minutes and remainder seconds, but we're going to do something special here, because when there are less than 10 seconds left, I want to make sure that the number 0 is printed in front of, say, 9, 8, 7, etc. What does display end time do? Well, it's going to take the time that we're looking forward to, which we've defined as then, which you can see is passed in here. We're going to pass that value to date, so it gives us the time that we're going to end this at. From that end date, we're going to calculate the hour. We're going to format that hour so that it's in a 12-hour format. Then we're going to calculate the minutes, and we're going to take the DOM element that will display what time to come back at, and pass to it those variables that we just defined. And in a similar sense, when there's less than 10 minutes, like when there's less than 10 seconds, I want to display 090807 instead of 987. So that covers everything with today's exercise. Let's make sure this is up and running. So restart. We'll hit a timer here. And we have the timer counting down, the time to come back at. We can change the timer, and only one timer will run because we ran clear interval. And then if I want to add a custom, let's just say 8. Hey, there we go. So it's a fun activity. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you tomorrow.